Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. This is the moment that we've all been waiting for. It's coming down the pipeline tomorrow. NBA Finals. For those of y'all who was watching the show, I do believe that this is the topic y'all been waiting for. It's time to give some predictions right now. Will the Dallas Mavericks spoil the Celtics special season? And Zay, the mic is yours.
Um, I think a lot of a lot of adversity between the NBA community and the Boston Celtics fan base on what's happening here. A lot of the Boston Celtics fan base don't say their team says their team is not a super team. They only have two all stars. They don't look at their team as some superior team to the rest of the NBA. That the East is weak. That they didn't pick who they played in the playoffs. It was all just guys got hurt. It's not their fault that guys got hurt. They played who's in front of them. And it's a lot of different things. And then when you look at the Dallas Mavericks, we discussed about their ability to play against competition. They had played against three teams: the Clippers, OKC, Minnesota, 50 plus wins each team that had a lot of expectations to go to an NBA Finals. And they overcame that to get to the NBA Finals. There's not many people in the world that anticipated the Dallas Mavericks making an NBA Finals this season, and it's going to be exciting to see. In my opinion, I think the Mavericks win in 6. Reason being, I just think that the X's and O's of Jason Kidd is going to surpass what Joe Mazzulla is capable of writing up on this court. I think Joe Mazzulla is a brilliant basketball mind, but we have seen time and time again when he's going against somebody who knows just a little bit more than him, he gets stifled. He doesn't really know what to do, and then he allows the players to take control of their own hands, their destiny in their own hands, and freestyle, which only causes more turnovers, more issues on offense, a lot of stagnation. We've seen it against the Warriors a couple years ago in the NBA Finals, where Ime tried to do something similar. It didn't work out. And then Joe Mazzulla, the last few years against teams in the playoffs, last year's particular against Miami, couldn't get over the hump because he just couldn't out-scheme Eric Spoelstra. I think there's going to be a situation where he won't be able to out-scheme Jason Kidd, and he's going to rely on the talent of his players to get him over the hump. And I think that's going to be the downfall of the Boston Celtics. I think that Dallas Mavericks, Kyrie Irving and Luka have a chip on their shoulder, mainly Kyrie Irving. That tumultuous season he had with Boston, the injuries mixed in with the disappointment he had there, hoping that he could be the guy, faced with a lot of backlash from Boston since then, the fan base. Since then, I know that left a sour taste in Kyrie Irving's mouth since then, and I know he is excited to play in Boston to prove them wrong, to prove he said it, he loves to hear the boos because he loves to hear the silence when they're doing well. And I think that's something that Kyrie Irving is relishing in happening in this series, but also particularly game 1 and 2 in Boston. I think Kyrie's going to have an amazing series. I think, in my opinion, he will average over 30 a game in this series. And the Dallas Mavericks will be NBA champions in 6 games.
I mean, look, you know, there hasn't been a finals recently that I have been more neutral on as far as not only personal preference, but actually on the court. And that's a lot of the things that I've been juggling over the last 7 days since I've known that this was going to be the matchup. Probably before that, because I already knew the Mavericks was going to pack up the the Timberwolves. I ain't believe in no history. So when I knew this matchup was going to be a thing, I've been juggling since then. Just neutral, neutralism, if that's even a word. I don't know. But if it's not, I just created one. Put it in the dictionary. I do believe when you break down this series, I want to start off with Boston, right? Because I think I have never seen a team as dominant as Boston, but at the same time being so heavily scrutinized, you know? And I think a lot of it has to do with not just one reason, multiple. I think people are penalizing their past failures in big moments. I think a lot of people don't like their play style of just being able to just shooting in threes and relying on three. I think when you talk about the heavily reliance on the 3-point shot, even though that's becoming a norm in our game, the Warriors won a championship being heavy 3-point driven with Curry and Clay and the Splash Bros, right? Houston Rockets made the Western Conference Finals being heavily involved with the 3-point action and all that. And even though it's becoming the new norm, people don't like that. People see Tatum, in his size, his finesse, his skill, his ability to finish at the rim, his talent, but yet early in the possession, he's jacking up a three and missing it. On top of that, not even making it, shooting heavily in the shot clock from three, pulling back and shooting from three and not even making it, missing it. And I get it. It could be very frustrating. Tatum in his own right is one of the most complicated stars in the NBA. I believe he's number one in some ways because the talent screams, yeah, this guy was supposed to be a top 5 player, but yet that time has passed. I don't think he's a top 5 player. And I had debates on if he was a top 10 player. Now, if he is, I think he's fringe top 10. So I get the frustration, in watching Boston play. You live and die by the three. That may not be a good formula. The lack of adjustments when the 3-point shot's not falling. I get it. But at the same time, what if the shots are falling? Have we asked ourselves that? What if the shots fall? How tough is Boston to beat? Because you got 5 guys in that starting lineup that can space the floor. There's going to be a lot of space to work with. Okay? When shots are falling, there's a lot of space to work with. And I think when you look at both sides, it's going to be pick your poison, right? With Boston, one thing that the Mavericks did well prior to the finals was they were able to allow other teams to shoot threes, right? They allow it. Like, all right, I'll let Jaden McDaniels go off, right? I'll let Nickeil Alexander-Walker shoot a three, right? Because he probably ain't gonna make it, right? Same thing with OKC. I'll let the white boy Josh Giddey shoot the 3 ball because he's probably not gonna make it. But you can't do that here because everybody on the starting lineup, Kristaps, Holiday, everybody could knock down the 3-point shot. So when you look at the flip and you look at how we gonna stop the Mavericks, well, with Luka, is pick your poison. We're gonna blitz him. We're gonna force them to shoot threes. You're gonna stop the lobs. Like, there's a lot. Is pick your poison as well. So I think this is going to be a 7-game series off of that alone because of the adjustments that's going to have to be made game by game to get the upper hand and win these games. Matter of fact, this is how I see it. I see the Mavericks winning tonight. Okay, trying to make a statement tonight. Tomorrow night. You're right. Man, I'm so hyped right now. I'm thinking it's tonight, man. I'm getting warmed up in this mug. You know what I'm saying? Tomorrow night, game 1, I see the Mavericks winning. I see the Celtics winning. Game 2, I have it 1-1. I think Mavericks will get that split on the road. But the Celtics have been the best road team in basketball throughout the whole year. So I do see the Celtics splitting with Dallas. So I have it being 2-2 at the end of 4 games. And I have it being a long series. But you know what? I'm beating around the bush. It's time for the moment of truth. I'm going to go with Boston in 7 games. Mm-hmm. And it's not a take that I really feel confident in because, like I said, I've been so neutral. I can see it going either way. Obviously, 7 games. I clearly value both teams and what they could bring to the table. But I think when you talk about Luka and trying to tame him, you're not going to stop Luka. Luka is going to be the best player in this series. Mm-hmm. But Boston do have the guys that they could throw, at Luka. It's not just one guy that they're going to throw at Luka. They're going to throw Drew Holiday. They're going to throw Jaylen Brown. They might throw Tatum on Luka at various moments. So they got the guys that can, tame Luka. So I'm going to go with Boston. I think they're winning 7 games.
Yeah, I think, Boston they're the favorites to win the series, but they have the opportunity to really make this team win. Shout out to Kenny once again. And I think, what Kenny is I think failing to realize with this Boston Celtics team is that when they are combating against a team that's as talented as them, they falter. We've seen it time and time again, and now this is when they have to find a way to overcome that. When they lost to Miami Heat last year, they were clearly the more talented team, but they lost to the Miami Heat going into the NBA Finals. Why is that? Why did Boston not overcome the Miami Heat, even though they had more talent, even though they had all talent up and down the roster, they had the better coach, everything in the world, and why didn't they beat them? When they played against the Warriors, they had the more talented team. They were arguably the better team. Why didn't they beat them? What happened there? So it's always comes down to the game, the actual what's happening in the game, and like Lil said early in the take, the mental fortitude of the Boston Celtics. I think they're a mentally weak team because I think they're so talented and they use it to get to their heads. I think they know how much talent they have, but I think they get stifled by how hard the other team plays, and that then they have no fear, that the other team doesn't have any fear against them. that they're just fearless. And I think that's what deters them and sometimes makes the lights a little bit brighter to Boston. And I think there's going to be another situation that happens here when the Dallas Mavericks, despite Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic being what people say the most talented backcourt they've ever witnessed on the same team, they still play with a lot of grit and grind throughout the entire game that stifles people. They come back in games. They make it close no matter what. And they make sure that you know that they are there and that you can't guard them no matter how many people you throw at them. 2 people, 3. It doesn't matter. They're going to shoot that ball and they're going to score. So it's going to be interesting how Boston overcomes that. I'm excited to see if Boston does, because I would love to see Tatum and Brown win the championship as a duo off the strength that they have a lot of talent. They're young and they could start a dynasty, or at least start a conversation that they could build upon moving forward. But it seems like every direction that we look at, I've seen this Boston Celtics team before. I've seen what they're capable of doing. I already know that something going to end up wrong.
I mean, look, if the ball movement don't become stagnant due to isolation play, then I think Boston should win the series. That's my only fear, is that, when the ball is moving, everybody touching it and they're shooting it and knocking it down, everything's wee. But then when they revert to isolation, then the offense becomes stagnant. You got guys just standing there in the corner. Chris Stop standing there, Drew Holiday standing there and watching Tatum dribble the shot clock down. Before he take a low percentage shot at that.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's going to come down to that. I also think Tatum and Brown cannot have a bad game together.
Correct.
That cannot happen, and that kind of reminds me of game 2 against the Cavs. I believe Tatum was 7 for 17 and Brown was 0 for 6 from 3, and they lost that game. One guy needs to be, shouldering the scoring duties along with a hero there, like a Drew Holiday and what he did in game 1 against the Pacers, and coming up clutch in the fourth quarter in game 3, like a Derek White. They had that hero at the end of, I think it was game 3 or 4, where he knocked down that buzzer shot where he actually got the putback at the buzzer. They need a hero along with one of their guys to show up, but they cannot have both Tatum and Brown not showing up in the game, because more than likely they will lose that game.
Correct.
So those are my keys there, really. And my last point is, and it's just speaking broad, going back to my neutralism, a word that I created, because I don't think that's a real word. Hey, bro, we do it. We create our own podcast. We create our own words. That's what we do here on this show. That's why we great. Back to that point, the Mavericks and the Celtics, I have never been so neutral, in any big matchup like this, Super Bowl or NBA Finals, included. I always normally have a team that I'm rooting for, what I'm saying? And it kind of creates that experience, a different experience of like you invested in that team. It's almost like you're a fan of that team for that very moment because you want them to win the chip. But here, I'm just going to sit back. I don't mind Luka winning his first chip. I don't mind Kyrie Irving winning another chip, okay, and rewriting his chapter. I don't mind Tatum winning a championship for the first time and Brown and getting over that hump. I'm just going to sit back, relax, and enjoy a good finals, and I hope y'all do as well.
Real quick, I want to respond to Kenny on this comment. I hope you are as confident as you were as Minnesota beating Dallas. I remember you was talking highly about Minnesota beating Dallas that entire series, about what Anthony Edwards is going to do, and here we are today. So, I mean, if you're confident in Boston, get the tissue box ready.
I mean, he was the same one that picked the Lakers to beat the Nuggets as well. I don't know, Kenny. I might have to jump ship here and join my guy Zay, man, because you've been off the money with your predictions this year, man. I'm not even gonna lie. That's a good point. But anyway, we are going to close out this show. Hold up. Kenny responded.
He will be back. He will be back. I think next year he's gonna play really well next year. I'm excited. I think he will have a better year than Shea next year for sure. Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.